Hey, it's Soul with another video, and today I want to discuss the state of housing in World of Warcraft. How's it going now that we're 5 months into the feature? What's great, what is lacking, and what are gamers saying? You'll also get some personal feedback, my hopes and dreams, and so on and so forth. The B-roll is going to be me cutting across just a few of the 500 plus housing visits I've done over the past couple months, so feel free to just listen in on your second screen or enjoy the visual feast. I'm going to cover a number of topics, so use the navigation to get you where you want to go. Please like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, and catch me where I'm live. As of this week, housing has been around for about 5 months, from early access to about now. For what it is, in my opinion, it's in a good state, although that's me kind of messing with words. Like I said, for what we have, it's pretty good. The bones of housing give us a pretty absurd amount of customization, where the look of housing isn't limited by the provided decor. Designers have demonstrated how decor can be used like a paintbrush to build creations that baffle the mind and construct sprawling depictions of how they look at this game and this world. It's been a truly impressive gallery. Housing launched at the best possible time during the last season of an expansion when players were wrapping up their business and wanted something to do. And here was something to do, a brand new feature unlike any raid or dungeon. It's not a borrowed power scheme or an event you can miss out on, it was an invitation to a new frontier to explore. But since the start of this expansion, with Midnight, we've started to look at how housing really meshes with the regular day-to-day of World of Warcraft. Where does housing land in the middle of season content, where we're pulled from this one feature to some other feature, and this race of our own making to acquire all the things and do all the challenges? At what point do we return home to relax with friends or alone, or to work on the latest extension or the next sculpture-looking thing? This all sounds kind of rosy, and yeah, these are truths that I'm embellishing a lot. There have been issues, and bugs, and concerns, and questionable moves. As much as there's been excitement and joy for housing, me being one of those obvious cheerleaders, there's also a constant yearning for features that should have been there at the very start. And there have been complaints over limitations and the intimidating feel of what housing can be versus the long and expensive road to get there. And of course, let's not forget the bugs. Naysayers have said, and they'll probably speak up here in the comments, that housing is pointless. It's just a dollhouse, it's plain house, it's literally useless content. When we peel away the layers, we come to a more simple pain point, that housing doesn't actually do anything. A recent Wowhat article lightly suggested maybe housing should have some sort of player power incentive to get players to participate. Now, this comes after what was initially intense backlash over a weekly quest that just provided upgrade crests after doing some housing-related activities, and the noise on that quickly subsided. Instead, readers mostly panned the article as bait, where players from both sides of the housing aisle mostly came to an agreement that housing should not tie into player power. Instead of saying housing is pointless, I want to twist that into this question. What should housing do for us? As if housing needs to dispense something or provide some sort of utility. Now, it seems like it would be cool to have additional functionality like a portal room or profession tables, like all the amenities of the city. But even if those were addressed, nothing new is being added. All it would do is just add another location where we can do the same things. Maybe housing would be the optional location where we can stand next to like a profession table and the auction house and gear upgrades and all of our banks without even moving. But does that add to the game, or does it just risk isolating us away from cities? I'm not sure. I think my personal take covers what most have said on the player power bit though. Speaking broadly, incentives easily come off as forced participation. Azerite essences from Battle for Azeroth and Torghast from Shadowlands come to mind. Tying in some direct player power reward like gear or a buff would likely result in some players hating housing even more for being pressured into doing it. The number of players who would suddenly awaken and get into housing, it wouldn't be zero, but I think it'd be minimal. And those who already enjoy housing, they're not going to care either way. I'd estimate that at the cost of riling up players, a move like this wouldn't really move the needle. So personally, I'm glad Blizzard has been really conservative on what housing can do for us, otherwise I'd argue we'd be in a much worse state. So housing doesn't do anything. I said that a little bit earlier. Now I want to frame that into another question too. What can we do with housing? Unfortunately, there is very little we can do with housing at the moment. I also mentioned earlier that housing was a very impressive gallery. Housing is neat to look at, and for the audience who wants this visual spectacle, we eat really good. These days, my niche as a creator is to invite folks to show off their places here on stream. I'm the spotlight, but they're the star, and we have a ton of fun exploring and understanding and sometimes making up some goofy stories. It's the infinite content trick, where we showcase builds, the audience sees it, and they want to share their own, and it's been taken off. But under this context, I'm doing almost nothing but looking at housing. Gamers are gamers though, and they've created things to do. Insulated roleplay groups, they've created new stages to perform on, and they're off in their own world, almost never to be seen again. I've been led around on roleplay tours as the designer tells us a visual story. I've seen depictions that invite me to make up my own stories to find joy and humor. I've been challenged to find hidden details and go on scavenger hunts, but I would say the most effective thing to do with housing, at least at the moment, have been these kinds of puzzle houses. And they're pretty good. From mazes to platforming and sometimes a mix of both, I've had fun navigating my way through a creator's twisted mind, and they have fun watching us have a go at it. Eventually, whether we care to build a home or not, we'll have this doohickey system thing where we'll be able to browse through creations in-game and find homes like these to entertain ourselves with. What'll happen is we'll have several kinds of housing players. The 1% will be the top creators making homes to borrow from or creating these game and puzzle spaces. And then we'll have an audience of consumers who will seek out these customized experiences made by top builders. And we'll have a mix of those who make housing just for themselves, borrowing ideas and making their own creations. The road to endless user-generated content is having its foundations laid down. We're just on the janky part of it, and it's gonna get better. Let me ask again, what can we do with housing? In my fantasy world at least, I want to see someone build a functioning arena that supports both solo and group combat, complete with pyrotechnics and a scoreboard and, the whole sandwich. And I want to watch the PvP community revolt against Blizzard by holding their own tournaments. I want decor that can access all the books from around Azeroth, so I'll be doing lots of traveling and collecting, and I can invite folks over to read up on the world's history. I want to see not just jumping puzzles, but obstacle courses. I want to see foot races through narrow corridors. I want to see someone make a Dota-style battleground with decor that can, kill us. Or how about a tower defense or a zombie invasion simulator? I'm obviously dreaming, but there's a path towards at least some of those ideas. We should talk about the improvements being made and what's been announced so far. The Inspect tool has been hugely useful at identifying the little pieces used in these kit-bashed creations. Thanks to fixes, decor budgets inside and outside have been going up. Outdoor decor is also going up in the upcoming 12.0.7 patch. And notably, these increases don't require a max housing level, but given at lower levels. And this communicates to me how the intent has been to give players more early on instead of trying to string us along, but technical limits have made progress on that slow. Outdoor lighting will also come soon, but with limitations. Total decor storage has gone up considerably, though a number have already hit the new cap or they're getting pretty close. These bits were mostly mentioned as far back as February, when the devs released a lengthy blog post with a loose announcement of what's to come, but came short of offering a detailed roadmap. I'd say the single biggest addition announced from that blog post is the import and export of housing blueprints. With this, I'll be able to save my favorite build for posterity. I can save individual rooms, I can demolish the whole house and import rooms back in. I'll be able to save a room full of my craziest kit-bashed creations and call on them when needed, and respawn that room multiple times if I want more. Let's also not forget during the State of Azeroth broadcast, they announced that we'd be able to select and mass move items. Being able to export and share builds will change the industry of WoW. By that, I mean we're going to see the likes of Wowhead, MMO Champion, and other sites which showcase creator builds to let us copy their build code with just a click. Between import-export and the upcoming increase in outdoor budget, its introduction will make premium housing skins instantly obsolete, outside of those who just really don't like collecting decor. Speaking of, I'd be a monster for not talking about the shop content at all, but I don't have too much to say. Although I personally don't see it as something that's ruining the game, as it's entirely a choice. To borrow from a previous comment I saw, big creations like the outdoor skin, they cost however much. But what you put together, that's priceless. The big boon of a feature like this is for those who are somewhat interested in housing but aren't confident about their creativity, and there's no shame there. Being able to import a complete home, it would be great. Then they can add their own personal touches like trophies and banners and more that represent them. Imagine downloading a whole home with a really nice layout and custom floors and everything, and then you can fill it out with your own furniture. That'd be very cool. More endeavors are coming, which isn't a game changer, but it would be a welcome relief. Battle Pit placement is also on the way, also with some restrictions, but is a very welcome sign of housing tapping into the collections we've been building over the years, or maybe decades. Showcases and visitor codes will be another game changer. Visitor codes will sort of let anyone do what I do now, to visit someone's home. Now, personally, I might still stick with my current format so I can see the most up-to-date version of a home alongside the designer if they want to tag along. Back to showcases though, those help us tie into the whole "what can we do with housing" question I asked earlier. Showcases will let designers post their puzzle and trap houses or, whatever they make without having to wrangle with some process like folks do for my visits here. There's more to that too. One of the great struggles in World of Warcraft comes from trying to connect players together. There's a good handful of housing communities that are absolutely poppin'. They hold regular contests and gatherings, guild tours and celebrations, and more. Meanwhile, in the public neighborhood space, it's pretty rough out there, and folks who want to get into a community, they're mostly cozying up to these larger groups. I think if they're supported really hard, showcases can be that bridge players need. By its nature, Showcase's primary audience are going to be folks who are already interested in housing, so while there are issues having a mostly dead neighborhood, at least people can go around that and find you. And visitor codes will let you advertise yourself on socials and forums and more. What's coming is great, and also not enough. It'll never really be enough. I want to mention a critical element bottlenecking the rate of decor-related features coming in, and it's stability. Since the alpha, we've seen the sort of wobbly pedestal housing sits on, where simply owning too much decor brings it all crashing down. At least one tester demonstrated how having too much decor in their inventory would crash neighborhood servers. The same goes for placing too many light sources outside. So while we clamor for the ability to build additional houses or to have racial housing, and while I shout from the mountaintops for weapon displays and mannequins, they, Blizzard, they also have to deal with all those stability issues that we tend to be pretty dismissive about. I mean, after all, this is a quadrillion-dollar company or something, and they could just throw money at it, right? So it's that careful balance that might have played a factor as to why we only have 2 total houses per Battle.net account, why we're only seeing so few racial housing options available. Imagine how rotten it would feel if we did have all this flexibility with selections, but might need to delete decor on a semi-regular basis. The 1% of housing players are going through this already, and with signs that decor will be added with every patch, Blizzard will continue to play this game of staying ahead of their own releases. I'm going to highlight just a few of the most wanted things for housing. It's hardly robust, but we've already been carrying on for a while, and a full list would, take all day. Additional racial housing is at the top of most people's lists, and will continue to be until their race gets the full meal with modular customization. For me, it's still weapon and armor displays. It's going to be a game changer for the gamers who are less interested in a house and more like a trophy room, a celebration of their personal history. One of the bigger pain points out there comes from acquiring decor as a newer player, from the cost to its convenience. I've heard outcry over the costs, with proposed solutions like buying decor once and having infinite placement, or having an unlock and then buying it with gold after. And I'd hear how it'd be so much better if we can make decor purchases via menu. Now, I do have one suggestion when it comes to the cost of decor. We know and we've seen decor specialists who sell most of the decor provided in a zone. Now, what if there was a second vendor next to the original specialist that sells the same decor, has the same requirements, but sold these for just gold, probably at a higher than normal amount? I think this checks all the boxes, like gamers would still need to go out into the world and at least unlock the purchase. Those who have currencies or are fine farming them can use the normal vendor. Meanwhile, those with gold, they'll just use gold. I think the monkey's paw here is that Blizzard's probably going to think this through enough that they want to make it feel like a choice on how to buy said decor. So by that I mean if it's going to be bought with gold, it's probably not going to be very cheap. One last thing I'll mention, I want decor that teleports me between point A and point B. There are tons of possible applications to this, but what I want to do is enter the house and immediately step onto this pad, and it'll take me one floor up. That way, everything below me is now considered like a basement, kind of a trick of the mind. And that's it. For what we have, I think housing is in a pretty good spot. It launched at the right time to get player feedback. Endeavors, in my opinion, they haven't quite landed as a reason for a neighborhood to get together, especially a public one. It's light on practical features, but the bread and butter of housing has been its ability to customize, and it's paid off extremely well for the building audience. Blizzard could have waited for another expansion or so to get a lot more features fleshed out before releasing it all at once to the public. But I have a feeling the business side of WoW preferred to get this into players' hands sooner to get an idea of their behavior. This way, the team can focus on housing features that we actually want. And like it or not, this lets them monetize sooner than later. I think I've talked enough, so please like this video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.